Hello, hello. It's another fine autumn day, and today's van project will be fitting a Transit Customs double swivel seat base, so I can put a swivel on the double passenger seat. It's actually not my first attempt at doing this. There are some parts I've already done. I will go over them in a bit, but it should be a relatively straightforward job. Right. While we're on the subject of van seats, I've been wrestling with a bit of dilemma about all the dog hair, because it gets everywhere and it itches. It itches lots. It's horrible. It gets everywhere and it's a nightmare to clean off seats. But yeah, so I've been toying what to do about it, especially if I'm going to be sleeping in the van more often. And I've decided to get a fancy set of seat covers. You know, they're a lot of money, and I always thought they're a bit of a gimmick. And I've always just bought, you know, kind of standard ones you'd put in a work van. But I think if I'm going to be sleeping here, I want it to be pretty. So I've been shopping around looking to get a good set of seat covers. So I went through a few websites, went through eBay, looked at a couple of upholstery companies that custom make seat covers, and I actually rang one up because I kept going into the description looking what comes in the kit. I thought, no, that's not for my van. No, that's not for my van. It says 2013 to 2017, but you know, it must be for the new model. Because they all come with, I think they listed it as the outer seat cover, the inner seat cover with hole for tray and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, my model doesn't have a tray. You know, I've had this van for like, I don't know, 5 years or more. It doesn't have a tray. And of course I was in a works van at the time, which is a completely different van. So I had no way of checking. But yep, I've come home, and in my utter defiance to prove myself correct, I went up to the house, grabbed the keys, came down, I had a look. For a brief second, I felt justified, I felt righteous, and I felt smug in my own intelligence. And then I found this. Van tray. The missus already has a van tray. I had to break the news to her gently as well. But what an epiphany. Honestly. It was like I felt all warm and fuzzy inside, like Julius Caesar walking into the Senate, and instead of Mark Antony shanking him in the kidneys, Mark Antony saying to him, "Got your back, mate." It was a revelation. And then the reality hit me. I actually spoke, as I said, I spoke to somebody on the phone today, and he must have thought I was a right smug git telling him I was telling an upholsterer. Actually, now I'm saying it out loud, I realise how stupid I sound. I was telling a van upholsterer that my seat doesn't categorically come with a van tray. When I say that out loud, I realise how stupid I sound. But, you know, I'm big enough to admit my mistakes. So yeah, my van does, in fact, have a van tray. And a random upholsterer who I happened to speak to on the phone today, who probably thought I was a right Karen, I doth tip my hat to you, sir. You have way more patience than I deserve. Right, for clarity, it's not actually my first attempt at doing this. The original plate that came was for the Transit Custom long wheelbase, which is close enough for you to think it should fit, but far enough out that it doesn't. Personally, I would have thought the long wheelbase was just a slightly longer version of the same van, but no, they actually have different nut arrangements. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 star nuts you've got to take out. One here, and 2 here. There's also a bolt that comes up through the floor with a nut on it that you also have to take out. Now, the instructions actually state that you may need to cut some bolts, and because my long wheelbase plate nearly fitted, I assumed I had to cut the bolts, so I cut them pretty short before I realised I had the wrong plate. So I've now hopefully got the correct plate, but I'm a little worried I've cut them too short, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The first job you've got to do is take off the side panel here, which I've already done. It basically just lifts up off these clips here. You can lift it up and it'll pull off. The instructions also ask you to cut away this section of flooring here, where the plate sits, and it's fairly easy to do. You can do it with a knife. Just be careful not to go through any of this, because this does have wiring loom in there with a lot of your larger cables going through your van. One thing I don't really see people mention is this cable here for your, like, if you've got a heated seat and your sensors and all that. Nobody really mentions that, so I've had a little look online and I went to see if there was even an extension so I could possibly leave it connected while I've got the swivel seat, but I can't find one, and to get one custom made is quite expensive. It's something I could do myself, but for all purposes I think I'll just unplug it whenever I want to swivel the seat. So it just unhooks from here and it just pulls off. There's little clips on the side, you squeeze and it just pulls out just like that. You need a T55 bit to take the 4 bolts out. I would recommend using a breaker bar, as they were exceptionally tight from the factory, which is to be expected given that the seat is load bearing if you have a crash. Obviously I've already had them out once, so it'll be a bit easier, so I'm just going to use a socket, but you may find you may need a breaker bar. Probably take them out by hand once you've loosened them off. The nut in the corner here is a standard 18mm socket. This is the one that I think might be too short. I won't know until I mount the plate. Once you've got all the bolts out, the seat, you can leave the seat belt attached. The seat just lifts up a little bit and you can slide it into the back of the van. Try not to catch the cable with the front of the seat while you do that. It's not so much heavy, but it is awkward. Once you get it off the location pins, it should slide back without any dramas. The kit itself comes from Custom Shop Designs. It comes with some instructions. Oh, these ones are actually in colour. The last ones were in black and white, so it was hard to see which bolts it recommended that you might have to cut. They are pretty straightforward. Basically it's 2 plates. These studs here, they lock the top plate to the bottom plate, and then you've got little pins which you use to lock the nuts in place. And it slots in where the original seat came out. Right, as you can see, I've already cut out this section here from the last time I'd done it. I need to make sure this cable is not in the way. And now I'll get the plate. It is a bit of a lump. Some of the bolts and stuff that come with it. It should locate over the existing locating pins. I need to lift up these stoppers. It's a quarter turn, pull these up. And the plate should shift so I can see the holes. There we go. I actually think I'm going to be alright with that bolt. So it's located into the locating pin here and another one here. And that is the right position. You can shift the plate around, get access to all 5 holes. Make sure it's nice and firm. And now you've got to place the bolts back in. So like I said earlier, you have 4 star bolts. You have 1 short one. The short one goes on the one closest to the handbrake. No, it doesn't. It goes... Let me get back to you on that.
5 minutes later.
Right, I've gone over the instructions and it turns out the short bolt doesn't need to go back in. It goes off the nut and the 3 remaining bolts. So the short one doesn't go back. Well, I don't know, but if my missus was here, she would call that discrimination. They're excluding the short one from the party. How dare they? Well, I'll put that to one side. So, let's get these bolts back in. So it'll be 1 here, 1 here, and 1 over here somewhere. Here we go, and 1 here. Again, don't be afraid to wrench these up because originally they were very, very tight. Really? Okay, I do have a problem. I do indeed. Okay, I thought I'd hit a snag. Basically, the instructions tell me to use the original nut to secure that down. This last hole here, but because, whoops, butterfingers, because I trimmed the nut too much, it doesn't protrude far enough. However, the kit comes with extra nuts and bolts for, well, basically spares for screwing the seat down. So I can use one of them to go over that. That should do the job. So understand, anybody following these instructions will not have to do this. But as anybody who does this sort of thing for a living knows, sometimes you've got to think outside the box. Problem solved. It saves me jacking the van up and swap this bolt for that bolt, because this one is now just used as a locator and it is threaded. But I don't think I need to do that. I may replace that at a later point, just to be on the safe side. But I'm fairly confident that that is sound. Do these Torx bolts back up. Again, do them as tight as you want. I am happy with that. Right, let's locate the seat plate back. So again, it's a case of finding a hole, quarter turn, hole, quarter turn, hole, quarter turn, hole, quarter turn. And now these 6 remaining bolts and washers and spring washers will go under the seat. So I'm assuming it's 1 washer below, 1 washer above. I will double check with the instructions. It looks like that is in fact the case. So it's going to be tricky to get out. I don't have any needle nose pliers or anything or a magnet handy. My pinky's in the hole. Okay, I'm going to get a magnet. I'll be right back. When in doubt, break out the trusty old telescopic magnet. Amazing things. Just always have one of them handy. And it's too big to fit in the hole. There we go, I've got a smaller one. Like anyone who works in a mechanical trade, I've got like 3.6 million of these knocking about. I even keep one in my lunch bag, so I know I've always got one handy. Because I'm always dropping stuff. There we go. 1, 2. Now I can carry on. Right, so now, in theory, the seat should just lift onto these nuts. And then I can screw it up. Well, hopefully I don't screw it up. No, it says to use 6 M12 nuts and washers. I'm not quite sure why it's giving me so many. Yeah, each one came with 2 washers on it, so I'm going to assume there's a layer of washers between the base plate and the seat. It won't do any harm leaving them on, so I'm just going to do that. So now I should be able to manhandle the seat back on. I'm not really worried about scratching this plastic floor in the back of the van because it will be going. You're just in time.
You need help?
Yes, I do. Right, I'm going to go around the other side. So you can possibly help me lift the seat onto those nuts. Right, you ready? Should I lift it up slightly?
Oh my god, that's heavy.
There we go. You're nearly there.
I'm in my side.
Lovely jubbly. That'll do.
While you're working on the van, I can sit in that chair, turn it round and watch you work and tell you where your wrist bits.
Indeed you can. You can order me around in style. But I put the washers over the 6 nuts. Then I can tighten them back down. Actually a little more to get with a socket. Just do it loose for now.
I don't know, the way you snore, you might be living in this van.
I can get on top of that. It's be quite peaceful.
Well, away from me and the dogs.
Yep, no dog hair. Or less dog hair. Who am I kidding? Dog hair gets everywhere.
Yep. Dog hair follows you.
It does. Sticks to me like a magnetic. Right, I'm fairly confident that's tight enough. And that is it. Right, now that the seat is assembled, to swivel it, it's a fairly straightforward process. You've got these little locking pins which go through the top of these locking nuts when you're in a closed position, just so you know they're closed and they can't open accidentally while in transit. So you pull these out. These will turn a quarter of a turn. Also, don't forget your electrical plug. That needs to come off. And push it out of the way. There we go. Get these up out of the way. And the seat should swivel. It does. Oops. Need to make sure my headrests are down. Now it is a tight fit. Do these lock when it's in the swivel position? I'm not sure. I don't think they do. This can plug in here. Yeah, I don't think I can put them up, but there we go. We have a seat.
Should I sit in it?
You can sit in it.
Oh,
You
my
look
legs
very
don't
comfortable.
My legs don't even touch the floor, so sure I am.
Short people problems.
It does feel weird sitting this way around though.
And that is that.
It's actually not too bad sitting this way around. This would actually make, it's going to make a good seating area.
It also means when I'm in the back of the van and I can't stand up straight, I've got somewhere I can sit now, rest my back for a minute without having to get out of the van. Well, I hope you found this useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Till next time.